Right, so we finally get to, in this radicals lesson, we finally get to problem 24C, which is to find the cube root of 27. So what's the cube root of 27? And before I do that, I just want to draw up something quickly. Cube root of 27. So if n is some number, we can find its cube root. If we know that n is a perfect cube, we can spit that out of our heads. All right, so on here on the left, we're gonna have what I call perfect cubes. All right, so since the root is odd, right? So 3 is odd. Talking about cube root, perfect cubes on the left, cube root on the right, right? So n is a perfect cube somewhere, and we have a cube root on the right. Now, notice I'm going to start with negative here. So we're allowed to take the cube root of a negative number, because when the n is odd, we can always take the root, nth root, right? Nth root is possible. And the reason why that happens is because all the nth root functions are related to some x, y equals x to the n, and it's basically 1-to-1 across the real. So all real numbers to all real numbers. All right, that doesn't happen for square root. Square root is related to squaring. Squaring is different. Squaring only thinks about giving you positive and non-negative outputs. All right, so just bear that in mind. You could explore that a little bit more. It's not important here. So the cube root of 27 is just going to be, of negative 27 rather, is going to be negative 3. And we can go on to the next one, going up, which is going to be negative 8. The cube root of negative 8 is going to happen to be negative 2. And we go further up, negative 1. The cube root of negative 1 is just going to happen to be negative 1, all right? In other words, how many times, when you multiply, let's go back over this. When you multiply negative 3 by itself, when it occurs in a multiplication 3 times, so that's what we're saying here. The reason behind this is negative 3 going back up times negative 3 times negative 3 would give you negative 27. That's what it's saying. And going back up also, we're saying that negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is going to be negative 8. All right, hence the cube root of negative 8 is equal to negative 2. And if you want to continue further on, negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 is going to give you negative 1. Hence, the cube root of negative 1 is equal to, the cube root of negative 1 is equal to negative 1. And we continue down, the cube root of 0 is equal to 0. We go 1, the cube root of 1 is equal to 1. And you continue along the same line. All right, so let's continue along the same line. This is n, and this is the cube root of n, and we're up to what now? 8. The cube root of 8 is just gonna be 2. All right, cube root of 8 is 2. And now we're up to what? We're up to 27. Yep. Cube root of 27 is going to be 3. Why not continue? We're not looking for symmetry here, right? It didn't go below negative 27, but nothing say it can't go above positive 27. So we can go further up. 64. Cube root of 64 is going to be 4. The cube root of, let's go 125, the cube root of 125 is going to be equal to 5. And so on. What's for 6? Let me see, 216, I think. The cube root of 216 is going to be equal to 6, and I think the next one is going to be 343. And the cube root of 343 is going to be 7. I think that's all I memorized. That's all my brain can take for now. All right. So those are the perfect cubes. All right. So back to our question. What's the cube root of 27? Well, that's just going to be 3. So the cube root of 27 is 3, and that's the solution to number 24C. All right, well, we still have more to go in problem 24, right? All right, so problem 24, 24D. 24D asks you for the cube root of -1 over 125. All right, so now please note that that's just the same as with fractions. I can split it. I can let the -1 be assigned to the numerator. Same thing. And so now I'm going to go back to an old rule that we have, right? So this is just going to be the cube root of -1 over the cube root of 125. And this is going to be equal to cube root of -1, as we saw earlier, is -1. The cube root of 125 is 5. So that's our answer. Please note that in general, if I have A over B, when it's, of course, adequately defined, okay? If it's adequately defined, okay, then that can be the nth root of A over the nth root of B. Please, when I say adequately defined, it has to make sense. There are some times when this does not make sense for real numbers, right? But if it makes sense, the nth root of A over B is going to be the nth root of A over the nth root of B, all right? All right, good. So we're going to do problems 24E and 24F on the next video, because those are going to be important little exceptions. At least one of those problems has an exception to what we might think if we are not thinking carefully.